When we started making our media piece, we originally filmed our first one on a SD card, uh, an SD camera, which was my own, and so I'd had experience with that. The quality was about 720, so it was decent quality. But we found that every time we wanted to edit, we had to have the camera plugged in, despite moving the files, uh, which was a bit of a nightmare. So we moved up to a DSLR camera, and of course they're much more difficult to control. For example, there's all these new settings, you know, zoom lens, different lenses, different settings, different lighting settings, and all the rest of it. You know, making sure the DSLRs are in focus at all times, otherwise the entire shot comes out blurry. And that was something that we had to take into consideration when thinking about technology. And going from an SD camcorder to a DSLR is a really difficult process because they're so much more difficult to control. There's different buttons, whereas an SD camcorder is push the button and record. A DSLR is you have to set it up, make sure you have the right lens, make sure it's not blurry, make sure it's in focus, have the right lighting settings, have the right sound settings before you can even start recording. And so that was something we really had to think about, and I personally found that quite difficult because I did film. I wasn't the main camera person for our piece, but when I did film sections of it, I found it really difficult to control. Whereas the SD camcorder, I found quite easy because it's just push and record. Here are some examples of some of the final film footage from the DSLR, and as you can see, it's a really crisp, really detailed photo. This is a screenshot, and the camera is really detailed, really focused, really crisp. You have Rue's face, and it's really close up, and there's the blurriness in the background, which kind of adds to it. Um, Again, in this photo, you have the close up of the sign, but you can also see the kind of detail in the background, albeit slightly blurry. But I think that kind of adds to the atmosphere um, of the piece. All of this has been taken from the actual final film. The final screenshot of the DSLR again is a wide shot. You can see all the detail a lot better than you can see on an SD camcorder, which you're going to see in a minute. But all the colours come out properly at the same time. It's really crisp. It's not blurry at all. Really good quality. Here is a screenshot that actually made it into the final film, but was recorded with the SD camcorder. As you can see, even though it's got an effect on it that we put in post editing, sorry, you can see it's really blurry. There's a big difference, really fuzzy, really blurry, not very detailed, and that was a big difference moving up from the cameras. A big limitation we had is we didn't have a budget, we didn't have professional equipment. We did, in the final thing, have DSLRs, but we had very standard tripods. We didn't have a budget, we didn't have any, which kind of limitates the film, because you can't, if you don't have a budget, you have to work around these things, and you have to still make a good quality piece. But with limitations to technology, there's only so much you can do. If you did green screen, which we chose not to do in the end, there was going to be a section with a green screen in it, but which we chose not to do in the end. If you did that sort of stuff, you had to realise it was going to be quite choppy, quite bad. And so that's something when we were doing our technology we had to think about. We had to work around the fact we had no budget to do good technology. We had very limited editing, which was something we had to think about as well. And we didn't have professional equipment. We did have good quality equipment, but we didn't have professional equipment. When we were planning our piece, we had to put all of our planning stuff on our blog, and that was quite difficult to get the head around because we had to organise our blog so that it was easy to read and easy to get all the information. We had to use different blogging tools, like putting the pictures and the surveys and the videos into a blog post and then actually posting it onto the blog. And so that was something that it was quite easy once you got to grips with it, but when you first started out, it was there was a lot of technical problems, which kind of set us back by a few days. Which, when you're planning a film and making a film, a few days is, golden for time. And so the blogging tools were quite difficult to get around at first, but once you got the hang of it, it was all right.